Coach, welcome. Appreciate your time. Everyone, we're joined by Associate Head Coach, Defensive Coordinator Doug Belk. As always, just ask you to use the raise your hand tool and we can get things underway. And we can lead off with Randy McElvoy. Randy?
Hey, Coach. Good to see you again. And just want to check with you to see the important, or ask you about the importance of the stability on the staff. And Dana hit on it the other day, and what that means for recruiting and just what you guys are continuing to build.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, very, very good for us. Consistency in terminology, consistency in everything that we do. It was one of Coach's missions when he took the job. He talked about consistency and him being here for a long time, and obviously myself having stability as the rest of our staff. I think it helps in recruiting based off of parents and coaches of prospective high school athletes that understand what our mission is what we want to get accomplished. And I think just by the players that we've had on campus in the last couple of weekends, it's been awesome. Probably the best players that we've had since I've been here collectively as a group in one setting. So I'm very excited about where we're going. And I think the consistency is only going to continue to get better. And I think it's going to show the product that we put on the field.
Thanks, Randy. We'll send it over to Sam Kahn. Sam?
Doug, good to see you. Just curious, I know there's a lot of talk over the course of the last few months about just interest in you from other schools, even potentially NFL. I'm curious just what motivated you ultimately to continue on with Houston and why you feel like this is the right place for you.
I've said this several times. For me, my relationship with our head coach is very important to me. He's believed in me. He saw something in me for a long time. And then ultimately, our players is my mission in this business. And we were so close last year. We built this. I've been a big part of building it. So for me, I want to deliver a championship, and I want to put our players in position to be successful on and off the field. And so for me, that was more important than anything else. Is focusing on what we're doing here and trying to finish the mission. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
With what you got and what you guys accomplished last year, what do you feel best about as you look at your group coming into spring?
I think we have strength in numbers. I think up front, we lost Logan, we lost David, but we have a lot of guys who played, a lot of experienced guys there, guys who have been coached in this system. And a lot of those guys are second and third year guys within our scheme that we're continuing to develop. On the second level, Donovan has been the leader of our team, and he's been a captain. We bring him back. Malik's played, Manny's played, and we add Cheeks and Jamal Morris and some of the other guys and the freshmen like Traylon Payne and those guys in the mix in that room, creating depth there. And then in the secondary, Javarius and Hippolyte, Tabo, all those guys are coming back that have played safety. And then Alex Hogan, Art Green, we have high expectations for, as well as Jace Rogers. And then, kind of building some depth with some of those young corners and the guys that we're recruiting that we'll continue to build and bring in, losing obviously Demarion and Marcus. We got to fill those shoes, but I think we have guys capable of doing that and guys that have been in the program that understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's going to be big for us moving forward.
Thanks, Sam. We'll send it over to Joseph Duarte.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
Good. You just kind of hit on a couple of the positions that I wanted to ask about. So let me pivot on the D-line, specifically DeAnthony Jones, seeing what he did last year and sort of picking up from there. You've talked about him and his potential repeatedly, but I mean, is this a big year? Is safe to say in terms of maybe building off of what he did last year and sort of taking that next step, considering some of the guys that you lost in the role that he may have to fill?
Yeah, my expectation is as high as for him as anybody on our team. He's very explosive. He could change the game at any point, and you've seen him do that in the past. And I think last year he played about 40% of the defensive snaps, and he was able to lead our conference in forced fumbles and sacks. So, continue to develop him as a run defender, continue to develop him as a pass rusher. He's matured tremendously. Very proud of where he's at, and I think the sky's the limit for him. So I have high expectations for him moving forward.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll pass it back along to Sam Kahn.
Doug, I want to talk a little bit about the back end a little bit. You mentioned a lot of the guys that are back. Where first off, where does Jace fit best in your opinion?
He's our nickel. He can play multiple positions. He has some of those same traits as Demarion and Marcus, where he's got some versatility in position. just based off of his skill set, being able to play man-to-man and being physical for his size. But he's going to play nickel for us if we need him to. He could always play some safety, in dime or sub package situations. And, his first year here, he played corner. He didn't play nickel very often. So, him being able to have somebody like him who's played every position, communicates very well, has matured, is continuing to develop, is working really hard. And I think he will continue to do that. And he's developing as one of the leaders for us. So just kind of seeing his evolution has been good. And, having the opportunity to move him around a little bit will help us, especially with the loss of some of those guys that we've had.
And a couple of the newcomers I wanted to ask you about, Jamal Morris, the transfer linebacker, and then also Moses Alexander, the corner. Just what do you like about those two guys and their skill sets?
Oh, yeah. Hadn't had a chance to really dig in deep with Moses yet. But Jamal is awesome. I mean, he's a high school safety. He's a local kid. Being at Houston is very important to him. I think he's going to be a big contributor for us. Long, athletic, physical, loves football, and he's just been eager to learn since he's been here. He's done a really good job of committing and buying into what we want to do. So I think, as we continue to move forward, we'll see a lot out of him, and I think he's going to be a big part of what we're doing moving forward.
Thanks, Sam. We'll send it over to Mark Berman. Mark?
Hey, Doug, Dana talked about this on Friday with the media. From your perspective, what did it mean to see the approval of the football ops building?
I think it's going to be tremendous, not only for, for our players, but for recruiting from a day-to-day operation standpoint. It's a lot easier for us, to be in one building, as far as, where we house our players, and then increasing facilities is always good, and giving our players the best stuff in the country is the plan. And I think that's going to be really good for us moving forward. The resources they have from a day-to-day perspective, and then, having the same locker room for game day, having meals in the same place, academics, kind of one-stop shop. And then obviously in recruiting, the brighter the lights and the better the facilities, the more people you attract. So I think it'll help us on that standpoint too. And the players that we're recruiting now are excited about it, and they've seen the renderings, but it's only going to continue to move forward. And, our president, our administration with Paz and all of the people that really have poured into that, I think they've done a great job of committing to, developing our program. And as we move forward in the Big 12, I think it's going to be key for us to have a standalone building. Coach mentions it often, but I think the significance is much greater than most people understand, based off of the fact that you need that to be successful and to take the next step for our program. So I think everybody's aligned, and I think it's going to do great things for our university as well as our football team.
So you're already using it as a weapon in recruiting?
Oh, yeah. I mean, once it went out on Twitter from our president, I mean, it kind of blew up, and guys started asking me about it, and we had kind of talked about it a little bit. But now that it's kind of in the works and it's moving forward, I think it's something to sell for sure. And, it kind of is going to sell itself based off of having success last year. We want to build off of what we've done from a football perspective, but, the future of our program is bright. And I think that's one thing that's going to help it. And the players that we're recruiting now are going to be the guys that actually get to use that facility and get to really, get the benefits from all the hard work and dedication from our head coach and our administration.
Send it to Rob Sellers. Rob?
Thanks, Coach. I wanted to ask about a couple of young guys that seem to have their role grow as the year went on. Manny Nunnery and Nelson Caesar are guys you're probably expecting to step into bigger roles this year. Have you seen their progress, and what are you looking from them this spring?
Oh, man, two of the kids I'm extremely proud of, especially I'll start with Nelson. Nelson's grown a couple inches and probably gained 35, 40 pounds since he's been here. His evolution is going to be exciting to watch. I mean, him paired with some of the other ends that we have. I mean, he's arguably got the most upside still left in the tank, and he's going to be in a position I expect him to be a dominant force in our defense and one of the staples up front. He's just, really matured, and he's in love with football, and he does everything the right way. I mean, he works hard. He never says a word. His teammates love him. He's a great teammate and an even better person. So I think he's going to contribute. And I think he'll be in a race with DeAnthony and Derek Parrish and some of those other guys to be the sack leader on our team and one of the best ends in our conference, in my opinion. And then Manny. Manny's arguably the most talented guy on the defense. I think his evolution is going to continue to grow. I mean, he's played 3 different positions already for us. He came in as a safety. We moved him down to a nickel Sam that played on the edge, and now he's playing will linebacker for us. And he was the star of our third down package and kind of ran that in communication. We blitzed him, we dropped him in coverage. He's able to play man to man. I mean, he runs as well as any of the DBs, and he's probably got the most size and athleticism in the linebacker room. So all the things that we could do for him with him, as far as rushing the passer, playing man to man, dropping coverage, and then his ability to make plays in space, increasing role for him. The expectation is high. I think he's hungry for success. I think he wants to be a star. I think he wants to be, an all-conference performer for us. And he's definitely going to have that ability to do that. And he's still young and he's still learning the position. But some of the things that he can do physically is pretty amazing to see on a day-to-day basis. So I'm excited about him too.
We'll send it back to Joseph Duarte.
Doug, from a number standpoint, can you see the difference from maybe, when you first got here to what you have to work with, not only in numbers at positions, but just quality? And if you had the opportunity or a wish list, is there anything that you'd like to add with some of those remaining, spots that y'all have between now and the summer?
Yeah, I think, the competition in every position is much higher now. The depth and as well as the quality. We have guys who are competing for the same jobs. And, you think about where we start up front, the way we play those guys, we need strength in numbers. We're rolling guys almost in and out like basketball. And I think it makes those guys hungry for success when they have to compete each and every day. And I think truly to win a championship, you have to have competition in positions. You have to have depth, because it's a long season. Guys get dinged up. And our goal is to create competitive depth so that when we go in those rotations, that we don't have a drop off within talent level there. And the expectation is the same for everybody that plays. I think overall, just looking for the best players that fit what we do. And, first thing we always start off with, we want high character guys that love football, that play with relentless effort. And that's kind of the model for us, is play more effort and more physicality than anybody that we play with. And so we want guys who fit that mold. So, whether that's a defensive lineman, a linebacker, or a DB, that we're going to continue to target. And obviously our corner situation, there's a lot of competition there. We're going to try to continue to build depth at that position, as well as every other position on defense. So whatever the best players are that fit what we do, that's what we're going to target. I wouldn't say it's one position in specific, but we want guys who fit what we do more than just a certain position.
Doug, if I could follow, at the end of last year, Derek Parrish had told us, he had the option of, he could have left. I mean, he didn't in terms of, it's not, his final year. And Donovan was in that same boat. When you talk about numbers and depth and getting key players back, how big were those two decisions to come back and to play that final year out?
Oh man, I mean, it's great for our team. I think you have guys with that much experience that love the University of Houston, and they want to bring a championship back to the University of Houston as well. And that was one of the goals for both of those guys. And, obviously education has been very important for both of them, and having an opportunity to graduate for Donovan last fall, and Derek will graduate this spring. Donovan knows what he wants to do academically, and he's already on track and taking post-grad classes to achieve those goals. And then Derek will graduate here in May. But when it comes to football, I mean, you're talking about two guys that play their heart out every time they're out there. Derek is wild, and he's relentless, and he loves it. He's physical. We could do a lot of different things from him. When you look at him, sometimes you may be trying to figure out what he's going to play or what he's going to do. Linebacker transition to defensive end. He's played outside backer, but just the way he plays, and it's hard to contain him. And then Donovan is kind of like the heartbeat. I've called him Peyton Manning several times. The way he's able to communicate, his intelligence is through the roof, and he's respected by everybody in the locker room. So when you bring guys back that have those characteristics, it's only going to increase, the expectation for the guys on the field with them, not only with being an example of how they work, but be an example of being able to pull up the tape and say, hey, this is what we expect. And those two guys pop up on the tape a lot with effort and physicality, and they're both good teammates that everybody in the locker room loves.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll pass it back to Sam Khan.
Doug, you were just talking a little bit about depth. I'm curious, with the level that you guys rolled up front last year, do you feel like you still have the talent to be able to roll guys at that efficiency this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, losing Logan, he just does things that I had never seen before, and I expect him to his name to get called here in the NFL draft pretty early. But when you look at it, the guys that have been in those positions, Cedric Williams has is a really good player who's battled some injuries, but he's one of the toughest guys on our team who loves football. And then Elias Bell is an unbelievable athlete that has made play after play. It seems like every play he made one play that could have changed the game. And then you add some more of these other guys that we've recruited, and some of the guys that we still have coming in. I feel good about that position. And then DA split reps with David at our rush outside backer position, and like I said, he led the conference in sacks and forced fumbles, and he played 40% of the snaps. So hopefully, with increased reps in practice, increased reps in the game, that his production doubles or triples, which would be awesome for our team. So a lot of production from the guys that left, but I expect the production from the guys that are taking over and competing for positions to be even more tremendous, because I feel like our depth will be even better up front this year than it was last year. And so we talk about strength in numbers and bringing that same consistency and effort and performance. And I say it all the time, Brian Hurley is one of the best guys I've ever been around in coaching. And I expect whatever group that we roll out there, that he'll have those guys ready to play from a technique, fundamental, and effort standpoint. And I feel good about that group.
And Deontay Anderson, moving on, how do you feel about the options you have filling that spot?
I mean, I feel really good. Obviously we just talked about Manny, who's going to be a stud. And he flashes every day that we go to practice. And then Malik Robinson has played a lot of football, and he's an old school throwback linebacker that'll knock you back, plays fast and plays physical. So you add those two along with Donovan Newton, and then you just talked about two guys and Cheeks and Morris that we're adding to that group as well. And then you talk about the young guys like Jalen Gardner, who was a red shirt last year, who was a player of the year in the state of Georgia a couple of years ago. The red shirt last year, and then Traylon Payne is arguably one of the best linebackers in the state of Texas last year that we were privileged to sign. So you add those guys in the mix to Donovan and Manny and Malik, and I think that group got better. And I think Coach Mack does a tremendous job of developing those guys. And I think that the competition there will help. And it gives us some versatility to do some things with some of those guys and how we play them in sub packages in different units. So I think that group is going to be fun to watch.
Send it over to James Mueller.
Yeah, Doug, you've talked about the competition you have at cornerback, and obviously, but just from a leadership perspective, losing, guys like Marcus and Demarion, has anyone emerged from that corner position, and taken more of a leadership role as springs began?
Yeah, definitely. I think Jace is the leader of the group. He's the alpha. He's the communicator. And I don't know if you guys have ever been around or watched Jace at practice or at a game. He never really stops talking. And he's extremely funny, but his intelligence level and what the way he's been able to grow here within the scheme, and he's played several positions. He understands a lot. So continue to develop him as a leader. And then, we're the secondaries together a lot with Coach Rowe and, Javarius Owens and Hippolyte are still here. Hip was a captain last year. So we have good leadership in that room, and then developing Art and Alex and guys who have actually played now. The expectation will be high for those guys as well.
And then you spoke a minute ago about Logan, and I know he's moved on, but you said you expected his name to get called early. From just what you've seen from, Senior Bowl, Combine stuff, he's continued to impress people. What type of player do you think he can make, or impact he can make at that next level, just having coached him?
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to be a plug and play guy. He has position versatility. He can play every position on the defensive line and be effective. He could play defensive end, be good in the run game and some pass rush. And then at 3 technique when he plays inside, I mean, he's a tough matchup for any interior guard with his athleticism. But not only is he a good athlete, he's very powerful. And he understands football very well, and he's grown tremendously. So the type of person he is even more impressive. I mean, he's all work. He's very quiet, doesn't say a whole lot. And I think whoever gets him is going to be lucky. And I think he's going to play early and play often. And I expect him to have a big-time career. And I think we're going to look back and be proud that we coached him and had an opportunity to be a part of his life.
Thanks, James. We'll send it to Joseph Duarte, and then if there's one or two more, we'll take those before wrapping up.
Doug, I was wondering, just given what he's dealt with the last couple of years, Cedric Williams, just, having him in for the spring, getting a full season, the potential there. And also if you have an update, on where Mark Wilson stands with things, coming off of not playing last year.
Yeah, I mean, Sid is unbelievably passionate about playing football. I think he plays every play like it's his last, truly. Plays with tremendous effort and physicality for undersized 3 technique. I mean, the plays that he's able to make and the way he's able to sometimes dominate inside, I think is going to bring a lot of value to our team. He's kind of like one of those guys that's a spark plug. Every time he's in the game, he's going to bring energy, he's going to bring passion. And, he works hard and he studies. And so, we're praying for help for him. Very impressed with him based off what he's been able to overcome, with the first COVID, with at first the things that happened with him with COVID. In the COVID year, coming back to having the ankle injury, being able to come back and even contribute, and what he was able to give us in the bowl game and the conference championship was amazing. To dealing with family issues, to the hurricane that hit home in Louisiana last year, being able to overcome all those things. And he's got an unbelievable mindset and outlook on life. And he's very positive, and it's nothing that he doesn't think that he's able to achieve. So the confidence that he displays on a daily basis is something that I think is infectious to his teammates and even me. Is very motivating. So excited to have him. He's going to work hard and do everything he can to help us be successful. So being around him every day brings a lot of joy to a lot of people in the building. And then Mark, he's doing well. He's playing corner. He can play corner and safety. As a junior in high school, he played all safety, and early in his career as a senior, he played corner mostly. So we're doing a couple different things with him, but he's coming along. He's got a lot of work to do, and he's progressing. He's learning a lot, and it's good to see him out there healthy. He's got a lot of ability. He's got to continue to develop, and I think he'll be able to contribute for us.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll keep it open if there's one more before we let Coach Belk go. Coach, appreciate your time. Thanks so much here today.
I appreciate it, fellas.
For everyone's planning purposes, we'll have select student athletes available on Thursday. That'll be at noon. We'll distribute that list here as soon as that becomes final. The team will be on spring break the week after that. I'll connect with you all about coaching availability as well as student athlete availability beyond that time. Appreciate it very much.